Hello everyone, Steven here with another fragrance review from Redolessence, and today we'll be taking a closer look at the popular designer house that is Calvin Klein, and the fragrance standing not so modestly under the spotlight today is Crave by Calvin Klein, and judging by the bottle, it's certainly craving your attention. Now, it's fragrances like these that make me very upset. Mad even. And here's what I mean. I first bought this one back in 2003. I was flying overseas. I happened to come across this one in the duty-free catalog, and I knew right away that I wanted to pick it up. The ad alone bought me. I was sold on it. So I picked up the 1.3 ounce bottle of this fragrance, which is the smallest size available, and I could not get enough of it. I wore it consistently and religiously. I fell in love with it. Eventually, I decided to upgrade to the 2.5 ounce bottle, which is the largest size that this one is available in. And I would even be so inclined to say that when I was 14 years old, this was my signature scent. I was in love with it. I mean, I wore this stuff like it was going out of style. And then something happened. It went out of style. Now, this is exactly what I mean. This one was released in 2002. It was a collaborative effort between Yves Cassar, Pascal Guérin, and Jean-Marc Chaillan. And this is a fragrance by the Calvin Klein house that was made to resemble a gadget. Now, here's what I mean. In 2002, when this fragrance was released, cell phones were becoming a commodity. They were becoming increasingly popular, and beepers were slowly going out of style. Steadily, I should say, going out of style. And since cell phones were becoming a commodity, the Calvin Klein house decided to release a fragrance that would appeal to a younger audience that could also be viewed as a commodity. And the result was this citrus bomb, this citrus-based, casual, very generic fragrance in a very presentable bottle. It actually looks really, really nice. However, soon after that, cell phones stopped being the size of bricks. Humans became much more technologically savvy, and people honestly were just not buying this stuff, and they discontinued it. Less than 3 years after its release, this fragrance was discontinued, and it was soon replaced by an eternity flanker for women. And that's what makes me so upset, because it's fragrances like these that are not groundbreaking by any means. They're not game changers. There's nothing, to be admired too much about this fragrance, but it is a hidden gem just because it's so versatile in terms of occasions, not seasons, in terms of occasions, and it is a very inoffensive and a very casual fragrance. Now, this is a hidden gem in my collection, and I do wear this one a lot because I like the smell, and because it's a very, you become very approachable when you wear this one. So let's talk about the smell a little bit. When we run down the note pyramid, in the top we have bergamot and sea notes, which according to Fragrantica.com are represented by a starfish. Check it out, you'll see what I mean. In the mid we have basil, coriander, and pimento pepper. And then in the base we have nutmeg, sandalwood, tonka beans, musk, oak moss, vetiver, and birch. Now, my nose is picking up a little bit of lemon as well, so this is certainly a heavily citrus-based fragrance. And that only says one thing in terms of projection. We'll get down to that in a bit. In the mid, of course, we have a few spices and a few herbs. Little spicy quality because of the pepper, but not too much. I think if they amped it up just a bit, this one would have been a lot more successful, and it certainly would have stood out among the rest of the competition. And then in the base, we have one of my favorite ingredients to be used in perfumery, which is birch. For those of you who are familiar with the way birch smells, you know that it has a tendency of giving fragrances a slightly smoky quality. Fragrances like Aventus by Creed or Patchouli 24 by Le Labo, it gives them a smoky, even sometimes incense-y vibe. And I think if they amp that up too, just by a bit, this one would have certainly been a lot more favorable, a little more challenging on the nose, and it wouldn't have appealed to such a wide variety of audiences, but it would have made this one certainly unique, and it would have stood out against the rest of the competition. So with that being said, let's get down to the rating for this fragrance. In terms of uniqueness, I ended up giving this one a 5 out of 10. In my opinion, this one is just an adulterated, watered-down version of Armani's Acqua di Gio. And being that Armani's Acqua di Gio was a 1996 release, it preceded this one by 6 years. So that doesn't really say anything good about this one. This is a citrus bomb. It is a very citrus-dominated fragrance. And it is appealing in that sense, that it's very zesty and it makes you very approachable and it's very inoffensive. But there's nothing too unique about it. It's actually quite generic, so only a 5 out of 10 for uniqueness. In terms of longevity, I gave this one a 7 out of 10. I put it on today because I knew I was going to rate it. I put it on about noon. At 5 o'clock, this thing completely disappeared. There was no hint of it. It actually sits quite close to the skin, and that's one thing that I don't like too much about fragrances such as these. However, this is an eau de toilette concentration, so you can expect it to last somewhere between 4 to 6 hours, and this satisfies that. So 7 out of 10 for longevity. In terms of projection, this one are a slightly slower grade, a fair, I think, 6 out of 10. Like I said, this is a citrus bomb, so you can expect this one to project very, very well for about an hour, and then it disappears. And that's exactly what this one does. And I don't feel like constantly lifting my wrist up to my nose just to smell this one. So that's something that upset me about this one. But while it does last and while it projects, it actually projects very, very well, which is why it didn't stoop down to a 5 out of 10 as opposed to a 6 out of 10. Now, in terms of versatility, I ended up giving this one mark higher again, so a 7 out of 10, just because this one is certainly reserved exclusively for the summer season. If you wear it in any other season, you're not going to get too far with this one. It is very appropriate for work. It's appropriate for school. You can wear this. I can see a teenager wearing this, someone up until someone who's very well into their 70s even. This is very versatile in that regard. I do have to give him that. However, this is to be worn more so in the daytime, but I can picture somebody wearing this when they're dressed casually or even in a suit and tie, just because citrus-based fragrances, I feel, are appropriate to be worn in more formal dresses or suits and whatnot. So this is versatile in that regard. However, in the end, still only gets a 7 out of 10. And then in terms of presentation, I gave it the highest mark out of everything, every other category. I gave this one a 9 out of 10. Why? Because, like I said, this was an effort on behalf of the Calvin Klein house to make a bottle that resembled not a cell phone, of course, but a gadget. And this one has a very unique triggering mechanism. So I'll try to put it as close to the camera as I can to see if my low-def camera can pick up anything about it. Can't really tell too much what's going on in there, but I can see it very clearly, not through the camera, and it does have quite a unique triggering mechanism. What happens is you have to press down on this orange part here on the right side of the bottle, and there's no instruction manual with this thing, so you kind of have to figure this out on your own, but you have to press it more towards the bottom. If you press it towards the top, it has a tendency of squirting rather than spraying. So because it doesn't have the best atomizer in the game, I couldn't give this one a 10 out of 10, but it does have Calvin Klein printed on the bottle in a slight iridescent font. Yet something else that you probably can't pick up with my crappy camera, but trust me, it's there. And when you put this one inside the plastic case, that's another thing about it, it's plastic, not glass. So that's why it's so inexpensive and you can afford to pay a very low price for this one. But when you do put it inside the case, it actually looks quite attractive. I love the way this one looks. I think it's one of the most showy bottles in my collection, and for that reason I'm proud to showcase it on my shelf. And then that earns this fragrance an overall mark of 34 out of 50. So there you have it. I trailed down a little bit, I apologize for that, but once again, as always, thank you so much for watching. This has been Stephen with another fragrance review from Redolessence, and please don't forget to comment, rate, and subscribe. It would be very much appreciated. Once again, thanks for watching.